Calling to order the October 10th meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. Mrs. Martin, will you give us an attendance report, please?
7 board members present, Mr. Dillman and Mr. Benigno absent tonight.
Also in attendance are the superintendent and his cabinet. Will you please join me for a pledge of the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board welcomes those in attendance as well as those who join us online. This is our work session, one of 2 meetings per month in which we receive most of the informational presentations as well as discuss and deliberate future decisions. There are also some action voting items required on timely issues or to meet time-restrained deadlines. Our meetings observe the requirements of the school code, legislative directives, the original Act 84 Sunshine Law, all subsequent amendments, judicial rulings, and our district policies to the best of our understanding and ability. All agendas and related public documents and details are posted on the website. I will now accept the vote to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are there any board comments? Yes.
I forgot to bring it. The obituary for Mr. Wingenrot, the music teacher.
I missed that.
Yep, I'll bring it next week.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes there's more names than I.
He was the music director here for a long time. I think it was Gerald or something like that.
That's okay. Superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Madam President. The board has been generous in offering me a new contract to continue on as superintendent of Conestoga Valley School District. Through our discussion, I've notified them of my gratitude and for their support and the offer, but I am announcing that I'll be retiring from public education at the end of my current contract on June 30th, 2023. While I've enjoyed and continue to enjoy my role here at CV, both health and family reasons have led me to this decision. To the many board members with whom I have worked, the administrative team who is second to none, the amazing dedicated teachers, the selfless support staff, I say thank you. Each of you are educators positively affecting the lives of our students. Speaking of our students, you are awesome. And a great thanks goes out to your families for supporting you as we get to partner with them for the 13 years you are here. I'm very proud of the many accomplishments by the district during my tenure, the creation and implementation of a profile of the CV learner that shifted the focus from achievement based on test taking to developing an educational system that maintained academic integrity while enhancing the competencies of collaboration, communication, innovative problem solving, global citizenship, and lifelong learning. We've established a true grade 6 to 8 middle level instructional model. The ongoing construction of an innovative middle school building will grow into a showcase for middle level learning in the region, not just the county, as our outstanding teachers discover and utilize the potential of their new learning environment. We are in the midst of a total district renovation and revitalization project. Kudos to Dr. Huskin and the boards that came before us for setting the stage for this opportunity to upgrade all of our district facilities. We have established a truly interactive blended model of online learning through our K-12 CVVA program. We have demonstrated that accountability and academic success is attainable in an online format. We have created a truly living, breathing, working document with the development of our comprehensive plan. Additionally, the board had the foresight to integrate into their first time ever 3-year district goals the 4 components of the plan: the profile of a learner, the associated instructional model, equitable support for all, and the development of mutually beneficial school-community partnerships. We have completely revamped our support for our special education populations. We have created a continuum of services, brought back students into our schools in a supportive environment, and have even just recently been able to offer our services to neighboring districts. In support of our most at-risk population, we have increased the number of social workers and homeschool visitors from 1 to 3 and have added a social emotional trauma specialist to our team. We successfully addressed and continue to do so the effects of the COVID pandemic. We stayed true to our plan, provided direct in-person instruction to 80% of our students throughout the first year of COVID, and even today continue to work on the academic and social emotional gaps our students experienced during that time. We've accomplished a lot, more than what I have mentioned. I want to continue to emphasize that this was a we effort. No one person can accomplish what we have accomplished together. That being said, we still have much work to do, to include the ongoing development of a sense of belonging for all students, completion of comprehensive facilities plan, the onboarding of a new chief and operations officer, as well as a district solicitor, and continued progress on our comprehensive plan, just to name a few. I look forward to continuing to provide leadership by always working with our administration, faculty, staff, and parents, and to prepare our district to welcome our new superintendent, who will be able to take our district to even greater heights. Again, Madam President, I'd like to personally thank you and Mr. Talley, who were the two remaining board members from the board that took a chance on someone to come in and provide a different way of looking at how we engage our students in learning and how we measure their success. Thank you again for every educator for making a positive difference in the lives of every child, every day, without exception. I look forward to seeing the great things that we can continue to accomplish. That's all for tonight, Madam President.
Quite enough. We will move on to our action discussion agenda. Mr. Johnson?
Any public
No, I'm
comments?
sorry. Are there any public comments? Which I knew there were. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. What I have for you tonight is a change order and a credit change order for the pre-purchase of the mechanical equipment for the new Smoketown project. We did something similar to this with the middle school project. I think we had a savings of $58,000 with that. Because I brought this to the contractor's attention and also asked Train if we had the ability to do this again. We got in a little earlier than we did on the middle school project. So as of Friday, the cost savings was $75,000 due to the revaluation and how quickly we're making this happen. It jumped up to $111,800 as of today. So that's going the right direction in my mind. So that's a cost savings to us of that amount for us just prepaying for the mechanical equipment. We have Train equipment all around the district. It's pretty much in every building. It's our chillers, our rooftop equipment. So good reputable company. We're not just cutting them a check and they're disappearing into the wind. So although we cut the check to Myco, which is our HVAC contractor, they in the end cut the check right then to Train. So just looking for approval to do that. It allows us to prepay and then save a considerable amount of money.
That'll be on consent for next week.
Yes, okay. That explains the notation that I noticed on the change order. That I was afraid the difference would be the other way.
Yeah, nope, actually a credit. So which
Yes, thank you.
we take those wherever we can. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
No
very
problem.
much.
Thank you.
We will approve that next week. Mrs. Hunsinger, welcome.
Good evening.
It's getting there just a little slow.
Okay, so this evening I'm going to give you a kind of a general overview of the results of the finances for the 21-22 fiscal year. And looking at the revenues, our earned income tax revenue was $1 million over budget in 21-22. And that is kind of an anomaly. It was actually 15% higher than what we received in the previous year. And talking with the Lancaster County Tax Collection Bureau, they said that district-wide, the school districts were averaging a 13% increase last year. Some of it could be rebound from COVID, especially for us since we are in a tourist and hospitality area. But we're going to continue to watch the trends. They believe that the trends are going to come back down to more of a 5 to 6% increase per year. So we're going to keep watching that. Our realty transfer taxes were high, over budget by $494,000, and that's a reflection on the housing market last year. And then our basic ed subsidy was $520,000 over budget. And if you recall, we have specific deadlines when we have to have our budgets approved and submitted to PDE. And for the 21-22 year, the governor's budget was not approved till later on in the month of June, and they ended up funding public education at levels that we had not anticipated. And looking at expenditures, our salaries and benefits, being Social Security and PSERS, are under budget by $324,000. I don't think it's a surprise that our energy costs went over budget this year. And then our purchase services were under budget by about $470,000, but approximately $275,000 of that is from a lot of positions with SOSL not being filled throughout the year. So there was some savings there. So we had budgeted for a $600,000 deficit and ended up with a surplus of almost $2.4 million. So that surplus then flows into our unassigned fund balance. And PDE has regulations that our unassigned fund balance must be less than 8% of next year's budgeted expenditures. So with this surplus, that does put our unassigned fund balance way above the 8% limit. So what we're proposing this evening is a transfer to our capital reserve fund. You have a choice. You could certainly increase our committed or assigned fund balances and keep that money in the general fund, or you could transfer it over into the capital reserve fund. $2,450,000 would get us down to a 7.95% unassigned fund balance. But just to let you know too, as an FYI, the capital reserve fund has some very specific requirements as to how, once money goes into that fund, how it can be spent. It can't be spent for general operating expenses. It has to be spent for purchases of equipment, construction costs, other capital maintenance items. So that's something to consider. So I'm just kind of putting that out there for you right now. Do you have any thoughts on transferring the monies into the capital reserve fund or increasing our assigned or committed fund balances in the general fund?
Part of my problem is, when we did budget this year, there were a number of staffing issues that we sort of cut short. That I want to make sure there's money for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would want all of this to go
Okay.
straight into a restricted fund like that.
Sure. What we can do is a combination of the both then.
I think that would be better.
Okay.
At
Let's
least for me, the rest of the board may feel they all want it in capital.
just as long as we get the total down to about $2,450,000 being transferred or reserved.
I like that to go more directly to educational purposes.
Okay. We can certainly do that.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I like this split because with all the construction projects coming up and the inflation, that's a big.
Yeah, I can see putting some of it in there. It's a
Yeah.
good idea, but not all of it.
Not all of it, that's fine. We've got $3.4 million in the capital reserve fund right now. So we do have a cushion in there. We can certainly, Dr. Z and I can sit down and with the other cabinet members, look at the numbers, see what we need to do and put into an assigned or committed fund balance for the 22-23 year to do, like you said, cover some of the educational costs.
And to look ahead at what we're looking at next year to make sure that, we have that cushion.
Yes. So is it okay with you if we run the numbers and then have that as part of the consent agenda for next week?
That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
As long as we get a report ahead of time.
Yes, you will.
Exactly what to expect.
Yeah, you will. So just, this slide right here, I put this in just more of an FYI. This is the current committed and assigned fund balances that we have. So we'll work on that. And then if you can go to the last slide, just wanted
Just a second, could you remind me when that ESSER's money has to be expended?
I think a lot depends on which year of the grant, and some of it has to be expended by September of 2024, but I believe there's also some of it by 2025, because there's
Not
discussions
next
about
year.
we're okay. We're okay right now. We're okay. And then this is just a little bit more of an FYI, because we're going to be doing some transfer out of the general fund to capital reserve. You'll see that impact on our year-end budgetary transfers, and we'll add that to the consent agenda for next week then. We'll have an updated resolution for the committed and assigned fund balance for you to approve. If you're okay with that going on consent agenda, again, as long as you have that information ahead of time. Then just another FYI, our local auditors will be in the first meeting of November to present the audited financial statements to you. And we'll have the 23-24 budget calendar, yes, we're starting that process already. 23-24 budget calendar on the agenda for next week for informational purposes. And the Act One index for 23-24 budget has come out, and we're going to be, we're getting a 4.1% index for Conestoga Valley. So that's just more FYI for you. Okay, we'll work on it on our end and be back in touch.
Any questions for
Okay.
Adele?
Sorry, I'm on.
I don't think so.
She's moving.
I'm moving. I'm on to the next thing.
No, that's great, thanks Adele.
Sure, thank you, guys.
Concise. Policy review. They've been gonna do that?
Yep. Okay, policies 403, 404, and 405 all deal with the employment of staff. And back in the day, PSBA had the 300s were personnel, support personnel, the 400s were professional, and the 500s were administration. And they were redundant. So 301 looked like a 401, looked like a 501, so they combined them all. What we did, when we, I guess, made the shift over years ago, we kept them separate. So I had a nice conversation, had Tom Richard from the association, Phil was here, as was Jill, and we banged out these policies. So what we did is we looked at 403, 404, and 405 as they are, and we are recommending that we get rid of those and combine them into one brand new 404 policy.
I will say one thing about that policy. The way it's configured is very difficult to read. There's long, single-space paragraphs. There must be some way to configure that in a way that's easier to see the different sets within it. You know what I'm talking, you know what I'm saying?
I don't.
There's one huge paragraph in the center that covers, I think, lower Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3, and then refers back to them, and that can be very confusing to follow. I just thought if that was separated out a little differently.
Is it a Title I area? Or is it before that?
And maybe it's the new one that's laid out that way.
This is a new
This
one.
is a new one.
Mhm.
I'll find out which one it was, but there was one that was really difficult to follow.
Just let me know and we'll make the changes.
I just assumed it was that one. I should have read it.
You talk about the links to the General Assembly documents, like
Might be it.
this
I'll
one?
I'll have to go
Where
back.
you do you click, so Dave, click on one of the links, like 23, that should take you to the General Assembly or some kind of a code.
No, it wasn't.
No, wasn't that?
No, it was a policy.
It was a policy,
It
all
was a
right.
policy. I'll pull it up again and let you know.
Okay.
I just thought this paragraphing could be laid out a lot more clearly.
Okay. What PSBA has done is taken away the numbers that used to be in front of each of the
I
paragraphs.
know, that was dumb.
Duly
Well, it's
noted
very
what
difficult in
PSBA
a
knows.
meeting to reference exactly where you want
Correct.
someone to look if there's no numbers
Yep.
there.
Policy 406. We got rid of the Tim's check applicable to educators. That is a administrative reg or administrative policy or procedure that we have. And the retroactive application, we don't have anybody in that category anymore. So those were the only two changes in that policy. Otherwise, it all looks at clearances and things like that. So we thought that was a well-written as-is policy. And then 408 is the discipline for staff. We did add that you should not have a non-professional relationship with students. That's in all the new PSBA guidelines. And I believe, and we took out hearings because that is in the CBA as well as in the employment manual, so that is a procedure. It's also in the school code, so we didn't want to be redundant and just restate school code in the policy.
The misconduct all seem to be focused to one type of misconduct. Aren't there other areas that are considered misconduct, or is that all in the school code and the educators' ethics stuff?
Well, that's where, when we go to this 408(1) is the educator misconduct. So this where it talks about professional personnel, because they are
Yes,
held
but
to a
it's
higher
only,
standard.
it's only one type of misconduct. It's all racially sexual misconduct in that entire one. Is that the only classification,
No,
or does that exist elsewhere? I mean, I appreciate that it's specific, and you know, what's appropriate and what's not, that is important. But I kept thinking there are other behaviors that I'm sure come under
Like
the misconduct.
insubordination.
Yeah, all sorts of things.
and those are all under school code.
That's what I meant. We need that under that. This is the only one we put in policy.
This one again was recommended by PSBA to add through their policy news network.
It just seems unbalanced.
May I ask what the numbers actually mean
You bet.
in the plan?
So, like, number 10 there,
Mhm.
when you go to the end and you go to number 10, it talks about school code. So when I press the number 10 here,
Mhm.
it takes me to school code. And then it talks about within 90 days, we have to, of notification, we have to conduct an investigation. And that's just basically what it said.
So this is where it's found in Act 141 or?
In the whatever the policy is, yes.
If you want to know what all those abbreviations mean, I have the list. I went and sat down and to find out what all those CF, CLAs and so forth are. They all revert to either the school code, which is SC, our policies, and some of them are legislative combinations where afterwards that they sort of have a paper that explains what it means, but it's a federal and a state one. And I can get you the names of those documents if you want.
Not necessarily. I just want to
Well,
know
and that's
when
where-
it's important to look
Like
at
when
it.
it's in here, what it talked about within 90 days,
Mhm.
that's written up here,
Right,
that was taken off of the
yeah.
school code.
Those are all the footnotes.
Oh, footnotes.
That's all, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's,
okay, thank you.
that's the
Could've
short
answered-
answer to my long rambling
Could have
answer.
answered in one word.
Footnotes.
That comprehends, that computes.
And any problems having this on the consent agenda next week?
Do we want to address the only one type of misconduct?
Well, the other ones are
I-
here. It's in 408. So physical, verbal abuse, intentional damage,
Alright.
unauthorized profane, breach of confidentiality,
Yeah. Sort of in the
failure to
past.
comply with a directive, carrying a weapon. What PSBA did was they pulled out the most egregious with the sexual ones, because when you have to fill out the form
Yeah.
for transferring educators, you have to verify that they did not violate any of those,
Oh,
the
okay.
more
Do you want to
egregious.
retitle it?
Well, no, it says misconduct, so, you know, as long as it covers all the misconduct, I'm okay.
Okay.
I mean, I know the whatever the document is called, the professional standards of ethics and behavior for educators. I don't know how many different things that lists, but as long as they're all, it's referenced and we have the footnote, we're okay. It was upsetting reading that long list, terrible things. Okay, are we all right for next week?
Yes.
Okay, then we will move on to the agreement between the IU and Conestoga Valley School District.
And this is just the contract between the IU and us for our 8th graders being over there for those 3 weeks. You'll see that in the bill.
They discounted it a lot.
It's free. Because
Yeah, there was a balance, wasn't there?
We got a,
48,000, 49,000?
yeah. Is it popping up?
But they have some and put zeros everywhere else. They were more than generous with us, I think, not to mention,
Here it is.
can't put a price on it.
You'll see that we got the value added, we got 50% off, so we got discounted from the IU. We did not get discounted from Borough, because the IU doesn't own the building, Borough owns the building. So when we use the cafeteria, we got paid, we got charged full amount for the cafeteria and one of the classrooms that the IU didn't control. So they dropped theirs from 60 to 30, and Borough kept theirs at 19. And we got more classrooms from the IU side.
All this is getting submitted back to the contractor, correct?
Oh, yes.
For reimbursement.
You
Okay,
bet.
just wanted
And so is
Verify
the, so is the cleaning crew that we had in this past weekend.
to, okay.
That's another whole issue.
Right, I just wanted to make sure, not like approving it out of our budget. Well, I mean, it will be, but for
Well,
for reimbursement.
Yeah, we're
Back.
approving
Right, yes, just
to
wanted to make
pay
sure
what's
that was
owed, but we'll decide later
correct.
where it all comes from. Absolutely. Anything else? Then that will also be on consent agenda next week. And our last issue is an action item with the exit of Mrs. Heverly Flesher. We're asking Mrs. Hunsinger to fill in as the board treasurer. I would accept a motion of that sort.
Motion to approve Adele as the new treasurer.
Second,
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Talley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kappa?
Yes.
Mr. Gensel?
Yes.
Mr. Hurst?
yes.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Yes. We have now an excellent board treasurer.
Here, here.
And as you've seen, she gives very concise reports, which I like.
Short, sweet, to the point.
She's so quick, she leaves before any questions. Go.
And she knows we'll yell after her. The agenda for next week is posted. This is a time for anyone else who would like to address the board. If not, are there any board initiatives anyone would like to report? Anyone been anywhere, done anything? If not, I will accept a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal and personnel reasons.
Motion to move to executive session.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?